Ever since I first watched the movie Limitless, I found that my mind keeps coming back to it when I'm doing other things. It's not that the movie itself is that amazing, the second half of the story kind of falls apart, but the core idea of it is so captivating. The way we see Eddie start out as an unfocused, procrastinating mess, angry with himself for not doing the writing he was supposed to, his physical appearance the manifestation of a lack of self-respect, and go from that to being able to do anything he wants, making rapid progress in every area of his life. It's the ultimate wish fulfillment film. It's something we all want. We all wish we could be like Eddie when he's using NZT, but unfortunately we don't have the magic pill. But luckily, we don't actually need it. Think about the things Eddie actually did in his first montages when taking the pill. He finished the book he was supposed to write, he worked out, he learned new things, he talked to people. None of that was impossible for him to do. He didn't need the drug to do it. There's a point in the film where he says, "I knew what to do and how to do it." I'm going to put the emphasis on how to do it. It doesn't just mean the level of some technical skill required to perform a task. It means the ability to make yourself do something in the first place. Being limitless isn't about having magic super intelligence powers. It's about breaking through the limits we place on what we can do. It's about taking action by being the kind of person who beats the resistance to action we feel within ourselves. Resistance is a kind of psychological force that arises within us whenever we think of doing anything constructive. The core idea comes from a book called The War of Art by Steven Pressfield, but it doesn't just apply to creative work. Resistance kicks in every time you think about doing something that means applying effort towards a long-term goal instead of a short-term whim. It feels like physical discomfort. There's a kind of tension in your body. Maybe you'll get a mild headache and your breaths will even be shallower. This happens because of the way we evolved. Your genes make it so that your brain doesn't need you to succeed, it only needs you to survive. That lower level survival oriented part of your brain will always put immediate impulses ahead of long-term goals, and it'll even create a nasty stress response every time you even think about a long-term goal. This is why you need to work against your own biology to fight resistance, having your higher brain functions take control over the lower ones. And that actually sounds simple enough to do, just pushing through that feeling of internal tension now that you can recognize it happening. But just as you're about to do that, that's when you meet resistance's right-hand man, rationalization. Here's some classic examples of rationalizations that are just resistance in disguise. I don't need to work out today because I've already done a good workout earlier this week, and I've earned the right to eat all this junk food and binge drink because I worked hard at my job. And of course there's the single most insidious thought we can have. I'm going to do this thing, I'm just not going to do it right now. Resistance is fear, but it's too sly and cunning to show itself in its true form. Because if we recognise resistance for what it is, and saw how our fear is holding us back, every time we felt it, the shame we'd feel about it would drive us into action and we'd be much more likely to face those fears. Rationalization's only job is to prevent us from feeling the shame we would feel if we faced up to how cowardly we're being when we choose the easy option instead of doing something difficult. Procrastination is the most common way resistance manifests itself, because it's the easiest to rationalize. We don't tell ourselves, "I'm never going to start my own business." Instead we say, "I am going to start my own business, I'm just going to start it later." The worst aspect of procrastination is the way it becomes a habit the more often we do it. If we think of ourselves as having two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us, with resistance standing between the two, then procrastination has the potential to make us put off living our unlived life until we run out of time to live it. In Limitless, Eddie is a person without resistance, who always takes action towards the next thing he needs to do. Without resistance, we live according to our ideals, and we are our ideal selves, since there's nothing stopping us from being that. To start beating resistance yourself, the first step is to start recognizing when you're experiencing it. Not every non-productive activity is a manifestation of resistance. You can tell whether what you've been doing is recreation or resistance by how you feel afterwards. If you feel energized and refreshed, then what you were doing was just having fun. But if you feel a sense of hollowness, then what you just did was a way of putting off something that's more important to you. The more empty you feel, the more certain you can be that your true motivation was not relaxation and enjoyment, but resistance. It's also easier to break through resistance once you realise how insignificant it is. It has no strength of its own, and its power over you derives entirely from your fear of it. Doing something productive isn't hard, but making yourself start doing it is. Once you've started, it's really not that bad. Getting started with something productive has a physical effect on your brain, which feels like inspiration and mental clarity. And once you make yourself start, the do something principle comes into effect. This is the idea that action causes motivation, and motivation causes action in a feedback loop. This will build momentum in both short and long-term ways. In the short term, it will be easier to continue once you've started, and in the long term, you'll build a habit out of beating resistance and the lies it tells you each time you experience them. And once you start building this habit, you can start to use resistance as a guiding force to find out what you should be doing. This works because the feeling of fear you experience from resistance gets stronger the more important something is to you. So if you continually do the opposite of what resistance is telling you to do, then you'll be doing the things that are the most important for you to be doing, and you'll be well on your way to becoming limitless. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, you can subscribe or click on the bell to know when more of my stuff is available. Also, if you have any films that have changed your way of thinking like Limitless, then let me know in the comments because I'd love to look into them. Have a great day.